Alex Ansary here. It is November 3rd, 2018. I think I'm actually just going to have a free flow discussion on the nature of the spirit rising above the present planet. And I don't have anything pre-planned. Although I do want to have a book one day that kind of consolidates some ideas, but search for the truth as to see the kitty. So we're going to start. Thank you. The cat. I've never actually had a pet this long, as an adult, because I've moved around a lot, and I never felt that it was really stable for a pet. To kind of follow up on why. So I wanted to wait till things were stable. Take a look. Sukanara is the name. It's a Japanese name. So at the Humane Society, they, okay, you're camera shy. Now it's all of a sudden shy. Let's see. It's actually a cat that'll come when I call it outside. Doesn't go too far away from the property. And it's my 2.5-year period or mark since living off the grid, and it does help to have a form of life around that isn't politically charged or dealing with this, maybe some of the same stuff that we go through as humans, but kind of has a natural, inquisitive, curious nature with a playful spirit still exists. You could segue and say that humanity is losing that playful spirit, and we can compare it to the nothingness as depicted in the never-ending story. This is probably a good place to start. Then I'm going to grab books at random without planning certain things and maybe just read a passage and see if it has a synchronicity to exactly what we're talking about right now. But in the never-ending story, there is a particular scene in which he is walking through the towers. He's walking through, and there is a test that only the one with confidence who knows his or her own worth shall pass. But that didn't mean that they weren't attacked and having to, like a warrior on their horse, to go through the gates, as these two large entities. Where you can even say that those are the archons, that are the gatekeepers, that maintain this soul prison farm. I'll talk to you about technology in a minute. See, I have information to help you. There's going to be people that are going to come against me, either now or in the future, because of it, and it's about souls. There's a war for souls, and this isn't a joke. That's why they've made so much of this, fictional and ha-ha, he-he, and coast-to-coast AM, and just being inundated with all this, although there's some good coast-to-coast stuff, but a lot of it has a pop culture element now in today's world, in the mass culture, but it's real. They call people like me crazy that are using digital shamanism to try to help some of you see the light, but it's real. It's not crazy. They use technology to encourage people to promote the illusions of separation, to act on those things in almost a soul-gathering agenda, to do people towards evil. And I'm well known, or those that are familiar with my content know me for being someone that talks about that. But you'll never see a left or the right on a large scale promote the things that I do. I do want to do a shout out to dprogram.net for linking to my work and posting one of my videos. But a lot of people in general in this fallen world are only in it for themselves, and they don't see how we're all in it together. There are even times in which people ultimately realize that we're in this together, but they're not on the same side politically. Like, there could be somebody that's like for Trump, but also has other deep-seated freedom-oriented themes that have nothing to do with Trump, in my opinion, but there may be a difference of opinion on that. But it's just simply a difference in opinion. On a core deep value system, some people have certain ideologies regarding freedom and certain things that are more important to them than political. So they may have people of different political or spiritual or religious allies or acquaintances to bounce ideas off of. I had more of that in Portland, and that's what makes living in urban cities interesting in a positive sense. It's not all negative. But overall, even with the diversity within certain cities and different people and different ideas, it's still a situation of a whole bunch of rats living in a cage. Not to start doing karaoke to Smashing Pumpkins, but I've basically lived most of my life in a dense population center. And I've come to understand specifically why I don't even see certain people with a certain level of superiority. It's because of the collective hive mind state that I've seen in all peoples. And regarding their almost like allergic nature to the truth, various people of various ethnicities in my travels, I'm not saying it's like parallel to the travels of Jesus, but I'm telling you straight up from my travels, and it really hit me this morning, I've come to understand the zombie apocalypse everywhere. In a world where people play up this area versus this area. Best places to live in 2018. You know, most trending topic seen at the supermarket. Yawn. It's the same prison planet. It's the same collective. You can be in a left-dominated part of America, or you can be a right-dominated part of America. You can still feel that same sadness that comes from this place. Well, what is that? Where is that sadness coming from? Do the mental health professionals of today's day and age have an answer to it? And I got to remember to go free flow so I can come up with stuff that's not on script. The answer is no. So you need to look within, but you need to look for the answers also out there in the world. There may be people out there that can help you remember the truth within. But let's talk about Colorado briefly, right? There are people that are prematurely checking out, and there are certain counties, Montrose included, Grand Junction specifically, apparently. There are people, the youth are saying they feel like they're living in a cage. And then people were like looking down at them in the comment section. Why are you killing yourselves? You're surrounded by beauty, you know, punks. There's a level of like cruelty towards like children that are inheriting like a futureless world. Hello, compassion, stop with the demonization. The millennials aren't the people that start these wars. The millennials are the ones they expect to finish them. And that's a fact, Jack. The millennials and their children are the ones they plan to draft. So let's talk about brass tacks. Let's talk about how they just constantly just creating these enemies. Yeah, they're the ones they shove the phones. Here, take these phones. Take all this. Here's son coming up. What about their parents? What about just this? The generational blame game is a joke. It takes us away from the real controllers of the world. See, we're not really starting there as a base. You can watch my Archon playlist series, about 200 videos long. We're just doing free flow into spiritual ideas, but a lot of people are tapped out from some of those basic things. And they're even blaming elements of their own society. No ethnicity included, no sticker needed, no warning label. Just blame a part of their own society without realizing like, well, these are products of that which you grew. What does that say about you then? And even the way the left and the right attack each other with such viciousness, without acknowledging the wholesale collective American apathy with regards to, then, you know, drum roll, please. But this isn't Stephen Colbert. We got the drummer. We can do a little dance. The people overseas, we have a overwhelming overshadow of apathy with regarding to what's been happening over there. And it changes a human being. 9/11 changed me when I saw that deception, but it was 9/11 2.0, or the next level of the, whoa, these people really don't care. They'll even use 9/11 research stuff for their own conspiracy stuff, but not even care about the people that are demonized by, no, oh my God, this isn't human to me. This is a program. So there may be humans on Earth that are acting without humanity, and I'm like blowing a whistle going, whoa, this is end times level lack of compassion. You guys are in trouble just based on natural law. And everything that I've understood about that, you guys, we're beyond past. It's countdown mode. There's no doubt about it. I mean, there would have to be a dramatic shift in widespread spirituality. There would have to be like a movement, like a late 60s, but on like a real sense, not with like LSD drops in the bathroom, Hunter S. Thompson style. You know, with a character from Red Hot Chili Peppers, the drummer. Whatever his name is, Flea, Ant, whatever, who walks in and go, oh my God, what are you going to do with all that LSD? And in that movie, Fear and Loathing with Las Vegas, you can watch that clip online. It pretty much depicts, you know, those wild 60s where everyone was free and there were gatherings of people. And it's like, we would need to see something really dramatic reverse the damage that's been done now. I do believe in mind over matter with regards to Fukushima and the BP oil spill. But if there isn't really strong collective mind over matter that's going like against the common illusions of separation, then how can the negativity of the pollution be overcome by mind over matter if the social dynamics are polluted? Some of those people at Free Flow that are speaking about the environmental stuff have discounted the social healing, the healing that needs to occur within society, within man and woman, within woman and man. There is actual, see, and that's why they want to tear us apart and create this world of single people with all these personal broken childhood issues. And they'll even teach people in AA and NA to fear relationships, while most people, oh, it's taboo. Oh, it's like our mommy and our daddy and our sponsor telling us not to do a 13th step, and they just go out and do it. And they're already pre-programmed to go back out. And I've already seen like the interdimension of those rooms and that type of pre-programming. Free flow. We have to deprogram from the pre-programming where we're set up to fail. In an inverted world, in a fallen world where sociopaths end up to be our managers and the good people are like the house cleaners, trading places. Hey, we need to see some trading places. I watched Trading Places again for the first time again like a month ago, and it features it's produced by Aaron Russo, but it features A. Murphy and Danny DeVito. Let's just play this out for fun. You know, it's based on The Prince and the Pauper, and I think this might even be based on, is it based on like a spiritual older story or a mythos? I bet you someone's going to say that it is. Or we're going to find out that it is. Prince and the Pauper. The prince becomes the pauper. The pauper becomes the prince. What do you think I'd do, by the way, with $1 million in 30 days? Travel around the world. How many people could I interview? A worldwide tour. That would be interesting. Alex Ansary with $1 million. So if there's a billionaire watching, I mean, there's a social experiment just ready to go from pauper to prince, but $1 million may not get someone very far. Maybe give me some time to invest. But yeah, I've thought about that and how great it would be to be able to use resources in a world to where I've never really had those kind of resources, and other people with those resources seem to misuse them. But even for a period, then we can just go back, you know, just change things up. Lifetimes may work like that. But let's talk about from the prince to the pauper. A lot of, we talk about being prepared. A lot of people have never really experienced a collapse. You know, a friend that I think has some psychic abilities observes the individual over at AMTV and sees something not so good in his economic future, maybe a future that's less than Maserati. And there's a certain, sometimes karma comes back to us within a life. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes people can really be misled by the fact that they don't have theirs handed to them in their lifetime because they think they can just keep going and going and going without realizing like I believe that there's a continuation of the life experience. See, there's a disconnect. Some people don't believe that. But I think that it is natural and it does happen. And I've actually seen how expressing that idea can freak out like a few Orthodox Christians that go to like a local church. As we were talking about Mexican food on my birthday, I went to an Orthodox church and went out with some Christians. And we talked about ideas, beings from beyond this world, the coming war with the East. Ideas, they were right on board, gave them my channel. But when we talked about the continuation of life concept, that's when the cold arrived. And it could be literally something as simple as a fundamental understanding of how things could work that prevents community. And in the online world, it can cause someone to come against someone in their message. There are people that have come against my message. And it's always relating to the spiritual teachings or texts, or there could be something adverse that someone feels with regards to me talking about the sun or reading a passage. These are not supposed to be like politically, racially charged issues. These are things that regard spirituality. These aren't meant to be button issues. They're button issues with people that don't want to hear that don't want to evolve, that want to hear a different version of reality. Right, where this is the only world that there is and they can do anything. And there is actual pressure in the real world for people that are not using the word spiritual teacher, but people that share spiritual ideas. There's actual nonstop pressure. I can testify to that for those of us that are on this path to stop doing what we're doing and to join the herd. Because this world will reward us for joining a group, including a church. Just pick a side, Alex. It's been established and approved by the Archon board of accepted groups to be a part of in the fallen world. I'm not a part of any socially accepted groups in the fallen world. There's going to be some people that may have an interest in Gnostic thoughts that are very adamantly everything that I am. That has happened too. That's why I can't be a part of like Gnostics as a group, because you're going to find some of them that are using that to validate their own fallen world ideologies, their own ideologies that are actually of the fallen world that they think are in fact spiritual, the John Lashes of the world, that believe certain narratives with a very limited perspective of what that's all about. But it's really not about those texts, but the truth within, and speaking to that truth within, and allowing that to be our compass. So taking a deep breather, you probably want to hear something other than just my thoughts in free flow. Maybe I can grab a couple books. Not sure how many minutes we are into this recording, but we are at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. And I think that weekends are better than the weekday to focus on, some of these concepts. So we can go ahead and, you think 6 books is enough? You think we can get through 6 books? 6 books? Ooh. So, just as a rule of thumb, I think that if you look for something and it's available and you're meant to have it, you'll find it. You'll find truth if you're looking for it. Same thing goes with videos. There may be a reason why this popped up in the suggested feed, or why you find other truths and understandings. And when you start researching stuff and you use the internet, it's going to automatically auto-suggest for whatever reason that you look at certain directions, and it may demonize certain people or spiritual texts and call them the product of the one world religion. And I think that there are deceptions online to take you away from the real truth and the real spiritual teachings. There's like a big time narrative that's out there online that's anti-spiritual, totally nihilist, and somehow it's masquerading as waking up to the matrix. There's racially charged arguments that weren't existing a few years ago, and people are making excuses for the fact that they're not trying to elevate their fellow peers to something higher. And so keep this in mind when you come across information and people that are targeting those of us that want people to wake up. Notice they'll be focused on us, not the actual manufacturers of things that explode and hurt children, or those people that will come to hurt them later on. These are the products of the fallen world and the influence of the archons over our peers. So there's truth you can find in all different types of books. I just want to read a little bit from something. So the Gnostic Gospels by Eileen Pagels deals with various elements of Gnostic thought, like the difference between the church and the Gnostic teachings. And I don't know what would be a good place to start. One of the reasons the Gnostics were called is also male-dominated. A lot of the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, modern-day interpretation of Christianity, and there's so many, and Islam, or Abrahamic religions. Gnostic thought is not Abrahamic at its source. And other forms of thought, there are also things that existed in the East before the spread of Islam that were either crushed by Islam or Zoroastrianism or other forms of Eastern mysticism. And so there's a lot of this heritage and richness of the quote-unquote third world that's been bombed back to the Stone Age that a lot of Westerners have no interest in. But ironically, it's been Westerners, archaeologists, others, that at the turn of the century started bringing this knowledge to the West. It's recently been available to you in only the last 100 years, and 50 years, 25 years, so on and so forth. I saw conspiracies early on that said that new texts would appear that would challenge the worldview. Worldview of what? Orthodox Abrahamic religions. There could be things that are planted within the research community to create fear of new information and ideas and people that will challenge the old paradigm. Under the guise of it being the spiritual, under the guise of it being patriotic, under the guise of XYZ as it waves the flag. You see, on a lot of different levels, they're using these sigils on the herd mind, on the hive mind. And I'm here to awaken those within the herd mind, because I believe some of you can't awaken. And some of you are awakening on a certain level. So, I won't stress this too much. I'll just read what's on this page. It doesn't seem very interesting to read chapter 3, but what do I know? Page 48. God the Father / God the Mother. Interesting or not, this is what the book opened up to. Unlike many of his contemporaries among the deities of the Near East, The God of Israel shared his power with no female divinity, nor was he the divine husband or lover of any. He can scarcely be characterized any but masculine: king, lord, master, judge, father. Indeed, the absence of feminine symbolism for God marks Judaism, Christianity, Islam in striking contrast to the world's other religious traditions, whether in Egypt, Babylonia, Greece, Rome, or in Africa, India, and North America, which abound in feminine symbolism. Jewish, Christian, and Islamic theologians today are quick to point out that God is not to be considered in sexual terms at all, yet the actual language they use daily in worship and prayer conveys a different message. Who, growing up with Jewish or Christian tradition, has escaped the distinct impression that God is masculine? And by the way, there are offshoots of Islam that are not as you understand them to be, but Sufi interpretations of God. And in the West, Gnostics, others, spiritualists, there are people that have gone away from the male-dominated Orthodox view, and for that they have been demonized by the Orthodox crowd. And so a lot of this does have deeper roots. I will also say that a lot of things are unspoken. So someone could be expressing, for example, a divine nurturing compassion for those people that are being removed off the earth, and there could be something coming against that feminine loving compassion or the sacred masculine. And they could be using something in an argument to come against that person, but it's really because that person is showing a feminine, nurturing, loving care. And there can actually be people of the female gender or women with female genitalia that do not have the feminine, sacred feminine or sacred masculine, healing, compassionate, going to say something about, these things that are taking place. So gender itself does not automatically equate to those sacred emblems or elements of our character, of course, which we have masculine and feminine within, and there is no real separation in the yin-yang. But there can be a dark expression, I believe, like a lower feminine expression that like eats her children, throws her children away, and the metaphor of that, of the motherless world, which represents our world. Whether it's because we're living in a world where civilization is dying and people are mirroring that dying self, so they're either offing themselves or they're acting in part to support the dying world or the military establishment concept, and they're related. So it's part of that dying fetish almost type of world with a master-slave relationship that dominates the real subconscious blueprint and wavelength. And I'm here to tell you that the dominant wavelength of the Homo sapiens that we're sharing space with are in that master-slave relationship. They're not seeking something higher. We're in a fallen world, but some of us are waking up in that fallen world. And like that character from Dark City, the world's trying to punish us for our awakening and the things that we're speaking of, and things that we're speaking of to others. And there are others that share this experience as well, that are speaking their truth on YouTube or have come across interference in their arena of the internet or their arena of this fallen world of the demiurge, where the demiurge is the god of this world, but above that is the god that's above male-female control. It's the creator that loves us all, regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of your parents' ethnicity when they brought you into this world. A creator that loves us all. Not one of the dominant demiurge ones that laid out, thou shalt this me this, or I strike thee down thee. Ooh, and then the continuation thousands of years later, since this archonic interference started to blast off into our reality, we ask ourselves, are we about to approach another type of archonic type false deity event in the 2020s? That will be presented as one thing, but is absolutely not that, as I speak free flow in my concerns. Some false something is coming. A deception is coming. But what is the true nature of that deception? And as we look online for clues about deception, Project Bluebeam or others, again, how much of that is planted by those that are actually bringing you the deception? We see in the physical world, right? They have played up certain things and movements of people as invasion while telegraphing away from a military invasion that they could be planning for those people, saying, look over there while they bring the bat over here. Probably a good way to describe what's coming with China and Russia as the bat over here. As the people that think they're awake in America have chose to look at invasion as over here. Look over here, manufactured news over here. And it builds until the crazy population at one point no longer has any perception of any real invasion threat, when it's just bombarded and numbed down to where the disinformation was actually weaponized against that population, to where they work to spiritually, physically, and mentally break down this society to a point where only a few at one point later would even be able to break free because of the PTSD that they were able to create through the nonstop fears, the nonstop cry wolves. And then they built over time the case against all of these Americans, as in the future they'll show videotapes of course, the things that Americans did to their fellow Americans as they show the world later on. Look at what they did. That is the demiurge in Gnostic lore, using the evil, wicked deeds of our current day in the future against us. It's called entrapment. Okay, on a spiritual entrapment level, they want souls. Now, if they can collect souls by convincing a certain number of people that they're superior, and that unless they do certain things, good things will be gone. So they would be told lies through human hosts and the centralized technological grid that were actually coming down from the archons and the demiurge. And they will think that certain things are necessary to protect their tribe and maintain their civilization, all the while following a directive from the dark grid, without realizing that, like a virus and a cyber attack, it locked itself into the truth movement and then spread out its legs and then spread out its tentacles and then began to rape the minds of people over time using social media and using YouTube, to where in the end there would be very few people left, if any at all, that would publicly speak against what was actually taking place. So let's look somewhere else. This is a book from the 1930s, and I said we would get more into this on demand. I appreciate if you sign up because it financially helps out, but I enjoy just doing data dumping in free flow here on this channel. The way to God are many as the breasts of the Son of Man, says the old Arab proverb. We should have enough sympathy with the struggles of another soul towards the light, not to desecrate the things that are sanctified by his hopes and endeavors, even by nothing else. So there are different religious faiths that are out there, and it is not our role to be at war with them. Even if we choose to not follow them, even if we have another belief system or an understanding of God works, even if we think that people may be misled by a God of war, we shouldn't encourage war on them. And there are people that do this to Jews, there are people that do this to Muslims, there are people that do this to Christians, and they're persecuted for their beliefs. And this is a world where that has to end. And my spiritual interpretation of that is that there has been a lot of influence from the demiurge to get people to follow certain lines of thought, Islam included, and for later there to be a plan to persecute people for their beliefs. Now, is that a test of God working through that? Because I don't see all religions as inherently evil, as things that can help people find something spiritual. I don't think it's a matter of what religion you follow, by the way. Let's just say this as a preface. I think it's about the good deeds that you do. So if someone's actually going to take a religion and use it to weaponize, doesn't matter who it is and who they're doing it to demonize someone because of their religion, or to use their religion weaponized against others. That's all wrong, and that's what I would say is blasphemy as well. There is a role for us to wake people up to their level of blasphemy and how they weaponize certain things and how they curse certain people and how our thoughts do have power. And so a lot of the technological things that are going on is almost creating, through the use of black magic and collecting these minds together, they're involved in a ritual, and people are being cursed online now in large numbers. You know, so things that you just might think with your modern understanding, no offense intended, but with a limited understanding of the totality of the spiritual experience, what someone might think is just a little bit of attack or trolling is actually an engagement with the dark arts and an attempt to use technology to interface with another human brain to change their path or to distract them from that which they're speaking. There really is a darker undertone to why people come against people that are just trying to speak their truth, when there are actual people out there that are actually doing wrong, that have no one standing against them. This is a battle between good and evil. And in this world of duality, even though it's fallen, we can identify with certain things. Let me tell you another story. I remember being in Portland, and talking with a couple that were on the street. And it was during that period in which I didn't have a lot, and I was living in the back of my vehicle, and I was seeing if maybe I can find community, talking to a few people there for the moment while having a cup of coffee, and talking about consciousness. And I'm dealing with another person, another young girl, another pretty young girl, living on the streets, living with some guy that just does street stuff and thug stuff, saying, I don't know if there is evil. Why do you think there's evil in the world? Well, I think that women trafficked and things of that nature are inherently evil, and that the world doesn't really support the good men that are shining the light on that. So you already know my story with that. There are people that do not support me shining the light on the dangers to women's safety. Those that do are silent for some reason, maybe fear of spiritual attack. But I'm not here to lie to you and let you think that things are the way that they are or a different way. And so to me, to really come against the evil of this world is to come across that type of commoditizing of our flesh that's taking place. Part of the role that I'm here to play is to talk about the commoditization of our flesh that's here now and is coming. Now it's tied to an ancient evil. So I'm here to play out that role for whatever reason. You may not understand that. You may not support that. You may not believe in that. But that's who I am. And that's who I'll continue to be. She didn't believe, however, in the nature of evil. That was pretty odd, even when I gave that example. So that's probably, I quieted got away from that situation. I think it was just awkward for them to be talking to a guy that's overshadowing them with his spiritual ideas. What a weirdo. So I'm at Laurelhurst Park a month later. This guy comes right down going, dude, have you seen my girlfriend? I'm like, no. I'm like deep in thought, like Alex, literally in a big city of his birth, all alone, sitting here pondering these thoughts, even though it's on Access TV. Who are my allies that I can count on one hand? Just sitting there at the park. And this guy is all, oh, my girlfriend. Okay. No, I haven't seen her. He's like, oh, she ran off with some guy and I haven't seen her since. That's obviously two options right there. She ran off with some guy and worked her way up the ladder, right? Doing that hop and dance. Just on tour, hopping from lollipop to lollipop. And the other possibility is that it was an abduction. Now, let's see. Which one of those wouldn't have evil in it? Well, breaking somebody's heart, that's probably the lesser of the evil, but the trafficking element, that's straight up evil. Now, someone's going to come up and say, no, that's still not evil. That's just the way of the world. We're animals. And I've had women talk about how they view certain animals as more superior to humans because they're super sexual and they basically have their way with each other, like certain species of baboons. That's right, old friend back in Portland. That would be former. And then she was always really turned off by, she was really turned off by her former boyfriend that had emotion and compassion and would cry for those people that are being removed off the planet. And I think my resolute and how much I feel about that just only increased over time, although it was strong then, but she was almost like sending me a signal like she wasn't into that. Compassionate guys crying or showing emotion over people removed off the planet. And everything with her was the archetypical, all the things that we need to look at is, what's in the back of the ingredients on the soap thing. Even when I had my survival store, she was insulting the soap in the bathroom when I was inviting people to come down and see what I created. And there were very few friends, and people think that I'm off topic. I'm not off topic. The real nature of spirituality, a lot of people has fallen, and these are examples I wasn't planning to talk about. So someone could totally overlook what someone's really trying to do and be like, well, look at this soap that you have. And this is actually a person that wanted to do a nude cooking show also. And there's nothing wrong with that. It was 2007, so I helped her with a couple tapings of that. I don't have the copies of that anymore, but if I did, there'd be some dollar value to that. But yeah, back in, it was all about being spiritual, right? Not a super sexual male, but I'm going to just hang out with some girl as a friend, do her a favor, and film her naked talking about Chia, drinks and whatnot. So, I mean, some of you just don't know that I've had certain experiences, though, that have played in the totality of my life experience. It's only in recent years in which I've been a little bit more isolated. That was after, a fast-track couple of years of meeting a lot of women and having a lot of other guys that were like false friends, tag-alongs, but not really allies in the fight for truth, but people trying to get close to someone they thought was a celebrity on TV. I've seen the real man and woman of the YouTube audience and of the real world. There's a truth to that. There's only so many that'll come through and be actual real friends and not try to deflect and do some sort of redirective energy. Very few people support what it is that I do. No one volunteers in any way. And see, you can be a decent person and just be receiving knowledge from me, but you also need to know that I'm doing most of this on my own, and that it's encouraged that you develop a level of spirituality within you as an audience member, so that when you bring yourself to an Outside the Box podcast, it's not quite a guided meditation, but with royalty-free music, maybe we can work to that direction and maybe deal with some collective deprogramming of fear. I think you'd like that. I think I'd like that. It needs to be royalty-free, and something that I can use without it causing a problem to my YouTube channel. But you need to be confronted with the truth, the harsh truth. You need to not be under any illusion there's a team behind me. You not need to have any illusions that I've come from some sort of a wealthy family or a family structure. You need to know as you come in as a new viewer that I've built up this whole thing where I'm making this my life, where I'm speaking to you about my spiritual truths. It's come from homelessness. The deeper passions about going beyond the illusions of separation stems from the fact my father was born in the Middle East, my mother an American, and the recent narratives I didn't grow up hearing. I always knew I was different, and maybe some people didn't want me a part of the group. I just didn't realize why. I had suspicions that people called crazy, including my name and other things. And in recent years with the PSYOPs, I've seen validation of elements of why I've always been alone and could be marginalized. But that's someone that doesn't know me, or if I wear a gruffy beard, or I'm in town. So I've had to overcome that, and do have to overcome that. And then holding the truth and knowing the truth that because few people are like me on that level that speak of these things, that I may have already brought danger to myself in my life through this practice of speaking to you about these things. Because I could have gone a direction where I just talked about solar flares, or I just talked about this, or I just talked about spirituality. But what did I do? I came out swinging, discussing that day that got us in these wars, discussing other things regarding things our government is doing, and went on a particular path, like almost walking over the coals, to where there's more risk involved than just and way less profitable, because this isn't about money, it's about survival. But other people that build the businesses based on telling you what you want to hear is spiritual pancakes, free flow, the spiritual pancakes. Everything's loving, everything's moving positive. Continuing on here in part 2. So the secret woke me up, but not in the way that you're thinking with regards to law of attraction. There's elements of that that's real. Then there's things that are added in, that's someone's perspective that other people follow, like religion. So in the secret, she was saying, if you want peace, peace for peace, or something to that effect, shine a negative viewpoint, being negative for herself, of the other person that's holding up the sign that's raising awareness as to, oh, I don't know, people being mowed down and removed off the planet like that. This society that we're in, the so-called normal spirituality, like health expo spirituality, is so fallen. You know, it's about the physical world and the physical orgasm and not being reminded about certain things. I'll remind people. I'll remind people. I'll be single at 45, remind people. And 50 and 55, living below the poverty line. But just speaking my truth, because it is currency to my soul. Screw these people and their Bitcoin and their dollar and their crypto. I'm investing in something else. Okay? So in my life, helping you is a part of that. Survive urban chaos. I talked about this a couple months ago. Survive an urban mob. How do we really effectively do that unless we clean house within, even if you're a good fighter? Any man, no matter how tough you are, no matter how hard you hit, the toughest of toughest, but the wisest, know that there's always someone tougher. The law of attraction and elements of that, causal factor, and the martial experience, or going to war, now there's an element to that. You need to ride with spirit. You need to be clean of demons. For those that are to go against the war of others, of demons, whether it be physical or other, we're talking about defense. Say someone is defending themselves or in a certain situation. You want to be in the moral right. You don't want to be the aggressor in a self-defense situation. I don't believe in premeditative anything. But there are people out there in this world that do believe in violence and might is right. But when it comes down to two men tangoing, when it actually comes down to it, or a man need to defend his wife or his family. When the Spirit is with him, in the spirit of the archetype of the hero, the protector, he is the one that has the right in spirit to prevail. To anybody that he hits, bam. For someone, literally like bam, right against the table, broken nose. Yeah, you regret that now. You should have thought about that earlier. Oh, someone wants to pull something over here. Whoa, we're going to maybe dismantle part of this cheek and this ear from this person's face. Who knows? But in a self-defense situation, someone's coming after your girlfriend's coming after your family. That person's not going to get back up after the righteous one strikes thee down. And so, there's basic principles. Now we look at a different situation, right? There could be like a couple and they're like walking into a bar like, you inward dish, you inward that, USA. Then all of a sudden there could be like a big old bombardment. It may have been unfortunate what happened to them. The defense principle may have been lost, even if that man was Superman, if there was some sort of, even if it was verbal, it could unknowingly invite. That anger, for example, could cause their protective spirits or guardian angels to say, you know what, this person, are we going to protect this? See, there are things potentially like guardian angels that people actually don't really implement into. Well, how does this psychology work when, okay, there for a time is when a person's protected in their energy, but also the construct of a government or a country. So there could be certain, look, listen, I smoke once in a while, but for the most part, I don't smoke cigarettes. There have been times where there's been anomalies like a flat tire while smoking cigarettes, or a bad exchange with someone, or something unlucky happened to me on the route to going back out smoking. Not super bad, like beat up or anything, but like some bad luck or some financial bad luck or some other bad luck. And it's not limited to that, and I'm not demonizing smoking. It's not healthy, but people are people. We are people. I'm just saying that I've come to learn that certain things, morality and health, have an influence on the protective field. So we actually do have to have protective thoughts, even if we actually know that we're facing danger or feel that we're in danger. Like Neo in the Matrix, the bullets are just a metaphor. We have to find the real tools to survive urban chaos, and it may include, how are you going to filter that dirty ass water from that puddle, and that puddle is the only source of water for 3 miles in your urban area. That may be one element of survival. The other element is to not lose your protection and to have a certain level of inner guidance to where you'll be led to safe places. If I need to go somewhere else, I will be led to safe places. Be they here, be they way down south, be they way up north, be they out in the Pacific Ocean, on a secret survival, top secret survival ship. That sounds kind of weird. May we be blessed with a level of protection to where we will never be leaving this country involuntarily by boat. I will tell you right now and look you in the eye that I believe some people will be taken involuntarily out of this country and shipping containers heading to the east. This video doesn't center on that. This video is reminding you that in the greater reality of the physical world, there are real world things that are coming, and the hand of protection and how it's been removed on a spiritual level from this government, and even evil rising to a point to where they long took over the government. And the people can't admit that. Some people are actually celebrating the idea of certain political cycles being certain ways because they think they have someone on their side in the equation because they're lost. And if you're not careful, some of these people that were lost or are lost might come after the people trying to wake them up. And it is the ultimate allegory of Plato in the cave, trying to interpret or share a different perspective on what's causing those shadows in the cave, trying to share a perspective of the people in the cave. There's light outside. There are real-world applications to Plato in the cave and the independent political person telling people in the left-right paradigm today, what you're doing is what they want. What these people are doing in the street, fighting with weapons, is what the demiurge wants. It is manipulated through his human hosts. And it's been brought down into the dark grid. I'm asking you to make an effort to unplug. If you really care about raising your soul's evolution and getting something from these videos, because I'm on right now. I'm on that topic. We're plugged in this time, so we shouldn't be so interrupted. We're going to continue. We're not looking at what's on news.google.com. We're not looking at infowhores.com. We're not catering to people's snowflake nature about how they feel about terminologies like that. We're sharing our truth, and no one's going to stop us. If we go further, random, page 138. What am I reading? Now, this is getting a little bit deeper into targeting. A lot of people don't know that, like, they think electronic. A lot of people don't know about books like this that came out a long time ago. And he's talking about how sorcerers or those that are involved in the dark arts target people. And so, for example, having invoked and concentrated his force, our sorcerer has next to consider his target. He has to get into astral contact with his victim. So think about the things in this world that you need to protect yourself, including mind control and thought forms that you may come across on the internet. Maybe actually a dark entity that wants to take you over. Control how you act with others online, how you perceive the world, illusions of separation. I think we're under a spell, and very few people are outside of that spell. It's reflected in my numbers and those that are willing to hear out this truth. First, he has to find his victim and establish a point of contact. Notice previous videos where I say create distance between yourself and the point of contact. In his sphere, and then working from the space, succeed in piercing his aura. So you see how immorality and certain unhealthy behaviors can weaken an aura and lead to some people being taken over and the need to try to be healthy. An unfocused force is not very much use. A force has to be achieved. The usual method is to obtain some object which is impregnated with the intended victim's magnetism, a lock of hair, nail, paring, and something habitually worn or handled. I have to deal with a lot of energy blowback because I'm all over the web to people all over the world using technology today that didn't exist when this was being written. There's also things in which you may lose or drop, and I've had that unfortunate circumstance. Certain things that you may lose or drop that contain your energy in the hands of that person trying to attack you with their mind, these things are notable as well. The larger repercussions of this and how this is connected with energetics, again, I think we're at the early level of looking at the technological component of this and why some people prefer to be anonymous online to kind of shield themselves, where they know it or not, from that type of energy or blast back, blowback that can come when you're speaking your truth. So that's why there's a lot of anonymous people that speak their truth. They may not all be on the dark side. Some of them are, to avoid that blowback coming back to their true selves. So they create the false self or the pseudonym on the internet because they may know well that they are on the internet for the wrong reasons, doing the wrong things. But we can hide from people. We can't hide from spirit. Just keep that in mind. There are people that think that by maintaining anonymity, that you're protected only from people on the internet and the government. There are other things that will relate to whether or not you find water in the survival situation, whether or not someone helps you, whether or not someone pulls the trigger. That really could come down to whether or not you were on the dark side or whether you were on the light side, and if you were alive to even hear the message and heed the call to the spiritual mountain. And I'm signaling the call to the spiritual mountain at this time. It's not a spiritual mantra. It's not a spiritual call. I've kind of laid out some basic fundamentals of things that are deeper in the world of the archons and the illusions of separation, things that go somewhere else. And I don't think there is more than a few more years to articulate this in full detail. There may be, if we're blessed by the Creator, but who's to say that we are blessed by being able to continue a sickness? I think on a larger level with the Godhead and the God mind, there's already a plan laid out and certain things are almost pre-planned. And I would argue that we've been tested this entire time since we've been here. And I have, since I've been on this channel. So you can understand that creating distance between yourself and certain dark entities that include super lustful things. We're all lustful to a certain degree. I'm not trying to deny that. We can also do things to inhibit our growth forward, and we can do things to screw ourselves up. You know what I mean? Get real distracted. Here's what I think about dark synchronicity. Someone can potentially emerge in our life that is the one for us to have a communion with, and for there to be a healing between the masculine and the feminine. There can also be a situation to where our feelings and senses, because we want that, because it doesn't exist, we may come across someone that is not that loving, nurturing person that cares for us, but we're bumping into them because these negative feelings of abandonment are now re-invoked. And so what we have to do then in that situation is weather the storm. In some cases, the best mode of action is to not pursue that person, place, or thing, and to really wait and see if that person comes to our side of the table. If someone's going to walk a spiritual truth, and it really is about something deeper and about the nature of our souls, that's going to be more important than sexual tension. And that's going to be more important between the people. And both people will make that attempt to show themselves as the spiritual beings that they are, and to rise above their lower insecure selves. Their lower insecure male versus female selves with mommy and daddy issues. May the future provide the spiritual essence that today's living men and women need to rise to their full manhood and womanhood, to bring balance, whether you're single or not, lonely or not. May you be in deep spiritual solitude and bring balance those opposing forces that seem to be opposing, the masculine and the feminine, and heal that in within yourself, no matter what happened to you in your life. Create that sense of healing and understand that in the real world, you can go to a therapist, but you need to learn to heal yourself. Sometimes things could be made worse by looking outside of yourself, relationship otherwise. That's not to say there can't be positive things and slices of chocolate cake, and even a night of going out and partying and being a part of the nightclub life and meeting interesting people and having fun. I don't demonize those things a lot. I think those things are part of life. It's when people start going down the strong desire, lustful direction, that sense of happiness and community can then turn to codependency, drug addiction, alcoholism, and then they're addicted to repeating the same things. Okay. Water. Water was number one with survival. How to survive urban chaos. Right away, it's talking about a bathtub of water. And here we are, water. In the water, Eastern tradition, empty your cup. So if you are to receive some knowledge from this, and from the things that I'm saying, it's good for you to leave your New Age religious and left versus right programming. And I know the nihilists, you have to leave your programming too. There has to be some reservation for hope, for miracle, and some willingness on a certain degree to understand the nature of spirit. Without these things, your physical, hardwired 5D reality doesn't seem to really have the components and the nutrients to really fully understand the spiritual war that is upon your people, that is upon your souls. For you could survive the bunker. You can survive the invasion. You can survive the war. The rich will survive things to a certain level until theirs runs out, until the avalanche is on top of their bunker, until the enemy is at their door. So even at the world's most wealthiest and those that think they're going to live forever, they still live with the deeper fear of what comes after. What comes after, right? With the selling of their own soul to a certain degree, or the leasing out of their own soul, and their chasing of materialism, there is the energy that comes from that. You know, and that attaching itself to their soul. People that also learn how to steal from others. People that are involved in the scam artist community. I said earlier that a sensitive person that I know who showed herself to be accurate views another YouTuber who's a scam artist as a person that will deal with great poverty. And while I'm not cursing him, there are people that get a chance to understand what it's like to be on the other side if their whole life has been a story of the richy rich. And then I segue to that, to the prince and the pauper and the prince. This is also something that could be described as, you know, certain lifetimes that we experience. Experiences to where we have money and we're tested with what we're going to do with it, or whether it's all going to be like some millionaire hoarding. Like, imagine if there's a millionaire that watched me that didn't believe that I was worth contributing to, but he was a millionaire. Like, that would be a specific example of what I'm getting at, or things like that. People that have the ability to contribute to this and this great work, but those that feel that, nah, the Happy Meal is better. It should really only be the corporations like YouTube and AdSense in which this person is able to earn a living. I'm telling you, like, that's not really happening. They're really kicking our ass. So your support is welcome. The links are down below. There could be someone in another example outside of myself to where they've never understood what causes homelessness, and they could be like a trust fund something. Like, again, someone could be bragging about, like this other YouTuber, his dad having one of the first cellular one phones. And again, he's telegraphing over and over that his dad is stinking filth and ass rich, confirming the fact that I thought his dad bought that studio at AMTV initially. And there's something going on there with whoever the dad is. Clue. But yeah, there are these weird things going on where there are people that come from prestige and real estate power are still yielding their power and influence. And they represent the mammon system. And their influence is still showing even within the alternative media. Literally. I wasn't planning for this to be like humor and comedy, but we're literally seeing like the blueprint of the archonic world of the richy rich. But the ultimate truth is, just like in the Bible, one cannot pass through the needle on the way to heaven. It's easier for a camel to do that than a rich person. And so there are people that act like they're biblical that don't even believe in that stuff. But let's just bring this. So why'd I pick a life of poverty? Did I already know this? I'm not necessarily biblical. But there was, even though I mocked, and I may not even be desirable by today's women, by the level of below the poverty belt, this has all been necessary for me to do this work that I'm doing, to be able to come to you, for the focus to not be on dishwashing and surviving on paying rent, or focused on paying rent, and then going out to the nightclub so I can get some validation also, or bars, or a place in my community. I literally live in a place where no one knows my name, and or if so, it's not a good thing. And I've done this to bring forth this information. This energy construct is powerful, and it lives beyond me. Encouraging people to connect with spirit. Also, as we talk about the bubble, the big bubble of energy you create in between your hand chakras as you compress that energy and you build it up. People are looking for spiritual tips to deal with arc entities attacking them. Are they grounding themselves? Do they have a superstition against that? I have met people that have told me it's like the equivalent of blasphemy. They're talking about like, oh, meditation is of the devil. Like, I've literally met like a sea of people that are straight out of a dark ages lifetime that you and I may have lived together or not. Some of you may have been old school from that burning of the village way back when, 1400s. Visualization for Change, 2nd edition. I mean, are you my homie from the past? Do we know each other? Visualization for Change, where it's not about ethnicity and where we are on the planet. There's like, have we done this before? Do we know each other, madame? It's like, wow. Well, what are we going to do with this? Because right now they've got us all boxed into our little pods. Is there going to be any show of life left as we literally stand at the last hour, 2 minutes to midnight? Or is all this going to be just another memory and another replay of another lifetime with the people from the village coming with the pitchforks? Am I in Groundhog Day? Telling you the same thing over and over again in a different lifetime, expecting different results. I'm just asking questions in the free flow. So we've got these different elements together. Yes, your favorite. Son of God. The thumb downs appear. Son of God, what are you saying? The sun brings us life. There's knowledge about the sun that a lot of people don't want to look at. And we need to look at that which in ourselves is blocked between wanting to know and not wanting to know. Opening at random. It's the chapter that I already read. In the small patch of galaxy, there would be naught but empty space without sun acting as our local broadcaster, beaming the power of the light through its solar system and beyond. Behind all other forms of energy and bolts of lightning to thought itself, it is solar gravity that holds the family of planets together, and it is solar energy that builds and powers the incredible variety of living organisms on this planet. Still, many pass through their day without giving a second thought to the sun, to that which plays the greatest part in making the day possible and all the days before. That's it. What's my interpretation? Well, you already know it if you watched my solar lecture. Beginning back in 2009, we're in free flow, hit the whistle. It's like any one of those little buzzers, sound effects, little board. I woke up after 2009 to something deeper. And it was the knowledge that some of the cycles and highs and lows in my life were following the solar cycles. And then I saw the patterning the event that got us in these wars, 9/11, and then came upon understandings, Leon Nagant's vision of China, Russia, future events in the U.S., looked at the timeline, also black and white articles saying that we're going to be at a certain point anyways with being able to wage that type of war, even though the war of words of today wasn't happening then. People like myself and others were looking at the trends, but not a lot. And so 2025 seems to be a period of great change. And what that change is for you, well, that is on a number of different factors beyond that which I can identify. But morality is one of them. Being tapped into the things that we should be in the future energetically. We can come back to that. I'm not trying to get into some channeling new age thing or talk about the ascension. I think there's actually some really dark things coming. We talk about that in other videos, the wars, but we don't want to be involved in those wars. We want to be able to circumvent some of the risks that come to our spouses, our women, and our family. If you have a family, you want to, and even yourself, we want to circumvent certain risks. Some of us may be waking up to our intuition and becoming fearful because of what we're seeing in the future. We have to use that same intuition as an early alert warning system. Develop it. Let's go there. Let's go there. Develop it as your other warrior self, because you're a warrior. As it goes up, Alex going free flow again, just looking for a sword, looking for a katana. As you go through the force of life, it would help to have your inner shaman look at what's ahead of you. Free flow. So we need to have that inner overseer that's going to be looking beyond us and do the work to be able to see what's beyond us, what's around us, what's the real reality as it is. Are there people in your government that are working against you? Are the people that you voted for actually planning to sell your ass? I mean, that would be like an example of intuition. There are people that do not have intuition, that think that they're awake, that think that they're psychic even. They don't have intuition. They don't know what 911 was about. There are people that in our society that literally are marketeer psychics that don't know the first thing about the way that the real structure operates. Like, oh no, I'm just seeing people talk to me and family members. And some people are only skilled on one level, but the ability does exist, but they're mostly fraudsters in our midst. Bada bing. So we're going to read right here, at random. See, you may need to watch this, folks, before your children watch the Alex Ansary Spiritual Free Flow. There might be some deep stuff there that may challenge some worldviews. Johnny might hear this. Who knows what Sally may, her pastor doesn't endorse such ideas. You may want to watch this first before, showing your girlfriend or showing your husband. So when you're out in nature and when you have time to stop and contemplate, try to feel the energy here. Try to see or feel the bands of energy coming up from the earth. They look like bands of heat that rise from a tarmac rod when it's hot, except that they are moving much faster. Notice as they pass through your body. What a segue. And imagine how they may transverse the very heart of an animal's perception. If it's a little difficult to see the bands of energy at all, try feeling them instead. Pick a rock, preferably granite, and lay it out for a while. Feel the way that it gives off an electrical signal. If you stay at home or more, its power will begin to make you feel quite spacey. You'll definitely know that the energy is out there. It's not an illusion. Try this. Get a dowsing rod and walk around the countryside. Watch the way that it moves and responds to energy flows, ley lines, underground water, and so forth. We are in the middle of an enormous pulse of energy, and it is all around us. Now, having said that, all kinds of energy is all around us. So if you're in a city and you're absorbing a lot of the smart meter energy in cell phones, like you may just be looking at articles about cancer, for example, or what 5G is saying. But on a deeper level, although there may be some articles about 5G where they totally talk about the human aura, and that's great if they do, and they take it down to a level to where they also talk about the sun. So if you have a bunch of these energies entangling in certain environments, it could disconnect, and I would even say certain types of people even more from that inner self, inner gnosis, inner wisdom, inner intuition, sixth sense. So a lot of people in urban environments are disconnected. I had to get rid of Portland or get away from Portland because I saw Portland as one in which it was zapping the people. It was zapping the people. So it's an Archon stronghold. And there's a lot of sickness coming out of Portland. So I don't speak to Portlanders. anymore through Access TV. I used to feel their psychic attack coming back at me. I need a little like rap, like boom, boom, don't. But everything is copyrighted, folks. If there's anything that's like, it would be fun to write a song about this crazy world. But I can only express myself in free flow. Then maybe we can go back and look at things in 5 years, in 20 years. We can look at the rough content that wasn't Hollywood quality. We can look at the moments in which I was offending the people at the time. And then we can look, though, in the year 2025 and see if all this was one big hallucination from one guy's tiny home. Everything on this channel, and just the constantly coming back to the same themes. I know you want me to rip and read from beforeitsnews.com. I'm toying with you. I'm just talking to a few of you and just follow like the mainline points from info whores. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's going to continue to be the OTBTV. If it is after lust and physical desire you're going, I shall warn it is misery to acquire. You're going. Look at where you are now, where you've come from. Look at what you're doing. You're going. That is from an ancestor, a Sufi ancestor, Ansary of the 10th century. In past videos, I've talked a little bit about that. So I do feel a little bit of a soul connection. We both live off the grid. We both were kind of persecuted by our own people. He had to protect himself against the Muslims. So he had to live in isolation during his day and age. He died of old age and blind in the year 1064, but his temple still stands. So we can contain potentially information from the ancestors. We can also, as souls, potentially pick vessels to where we can use those as transmitters to tap into deep, profound information. Those vessels may be demonized, particular combination of genetics. They may even be called a threat to the structure or other people for no reason whatsoever. So that may prohibit some of us from reaching larger audiences while we were in physical form during those social dark ages. We're during social dark ages where you are the only people that are receptive to me and this information. A few scattered 100 people that choose to watch this on YouTube. As far as the real world, I am nothing to them. There are people out of ego that are attached to the collective idea of women, the collective idea of men, be it white women, white men, or just American citizens, or just people that watch this channel, that have a difficult time understanding the totality and the reality of what's going on and the type of almost punishment from the God of this world for the work that I'm doing. And the way that I've seen the demiurge manifest in people's dreams, even people where I've dated them and they've had these dream invasions to where they're getting false downloads. There I'm with another woman or have a wife somewhere. I've seen actual supernatural sabotage with all female relationships to a certain degree, with very few exceptions. Those few exceptions, it's been a passing moment, a passing romance, but eventually, and the totality has been, as there have been people that have been allies during certain periods. And I think that there are periods in which God speaks through people and God shows itself, but we are not supposed to attach ourselves to those people or those relationships, but to appreciate them while they exist. Because we can have the alternative and not have those positive relationships. So there may be a time where we have to hold on when we're in solitude, and we may be a little bit lonely, but understand that there are seasons for things. Just like it becomes cold, it could become warm. There could become a period in which some of the same energies in which I speak of could create a sense of consciousness and a greater connection amongst the humans. Maybe I'm already a part of that. Maybe this is it. Maybe you connecting with this information is it. I think it's too early to call that. I think it's more, what do we do with this knowledge? But if it's empowering us on the spiritual level, even if we don't know each other in the real world, is there still good that's being done? I think the answer is yes, but that's not all to life. But is there still information that's being transmitted and broadcasted that can help you? Yes. Do I think that it helps my soul? Yes. Are there other things that my soul needs or that my spirit longs for that it doesn't feel that it has? Yes. So we do what we can do with the resources that the universe has brought to us. Now, we're going to talk about visualization for change. And this is one of the longer free flow videos that I recall doing in a long time with actual other guides and topics. We're talking about, like, little mini guides like this, How to Survive Urban Chaos, and the other books that kind of lead us to various topics. Now, in the chapter 7, where he talks about, you're not going to be able to see that, pleasure. He talks about something that I've kind of struggled with, and it's the idea of experiencing pleasure in this world. But I do realize that there is another side of myself that's really deeply experiencing any form of pleasure from living in this world. It's just a sense of that I'm accomplishing something as a soul by sharing these outside-the-box views with you. What little pleasure I do feel from this world is very much limited to the YouTube experience and how people are receiving it. And if there's also support back and seeing that there's positive reinforcement for positive behavior. And I think the 2 new people that signed up on Patreon, but I need a lot more support to also be able to improve things. But the visualization for pleasure, I personally struggle with because of maybe my own programming, but it's the way that I've seen others misuse the law of attraction for materialism without seeing them really show much concern for others. But is there something to know more about pleasure that we all should think about while our minds are filled with doom and gloom? Let me pull something out of this page at random. Pleasure depends on visualization in a more direct way as well. Visualization is an essential component of pleasure. You can't read a novel and enjoy it without visualizing the characters and the settings. A key part of the pleasure of dinner out at a fine restaurant is the anticipation. Visualizing what it will be like. Sexual desire and its fulfillment are about 90% of visualization and only about 10% biology. The pleasure of listening to music is enhanced by the mental images it inspires. Even looking at a beautiful painting induces collateral images and feelings that are not actually present in the pigment on the canvas. In one sense, you can't feel any pleasure at all without visualizing, without bringing your awareness to the object of pleasure. A gorgeous sunset might bring you no pleasure if you have a headache and are too preoccupied with your pain to notice the sky. It fills in the blank with a lot of stuff I just got done talking about in free flow. This chapter will address all the ways in which pleasure and visualization are connected. How to visualize for pure pleasure. How to identify and expand the list of things that bring you pleasure. How to create visualizations that can give you short bursts of pleasure. Oh, don't worry, we're going to get into how to protect your girlfriend from an angry mob in a minute, but we've got to mix it up here. But how to see the glass is half full. Now, the next subsection, I know some of you want to keep going, unguided fantasy. In the other chapters of the book, you perform receptive visualizations in order to explore your resistance to change, to gain insight into a problem, or to generate images that will be used later in a programmed visualization. In this chapter, the repetitive visualization exercise is a completely unguided fantasy. There is no purpose beyond the visualization itself. The only rule is to have the intention of experiencing pleasant images. This is not easy. This is not. Have you ever tried this? Seriously, like I'm feeling guilty because I'm being selfish. Like we literally are pre-programmed on the other level. So I'm here to tell you there's balance with some of this. And this guy does not obsess on the terminology law of attraction as he discusses this and visualization for change. He's going at it from a deeper level, including modern psychology methods. So he's not necessarily coming at it, and there's definitely no channeling in this book. So I'm just here to tell you that, in the arena of trying to change your life and positive think, I think there's some stuff that we should look at. And there is some stuff that may have some truth to it, but there may be some falsehoods to the point where the people that are teaching that stuff are still about to experience their pauper reality and misunderstanding of energy and wealth and how it really works and how it can be taken away. The idea of visualizing, I'm going to close the book. The idea of visualizing community in a dollarless world, in a collapsed America, see, these are things to give value to. And visualizing those healthy relationships, those mature adults that are able to work with other mature adults that have worked out some of their issues. Ultimately, we have a society with police and military because you have a lot of people that don't work out their personal issues very well. So they've really built up systems and armies and governments and do we really need to do a show on that? So the system, as you live in Neo, is a creation of the souls. It's a collective soul effort. Greatest deception is for us to just externalize that without looking internally at how we played a role in the collective to even get here to begin with. You know what I mean? We're not victims. Life's a test. Yes, it is. Stop crying. Pull your pants up. Pull your titties back in your shirt. Okay? Wake the hell up. We need to wake up to what it is that we're here to do. We can come back and talk more about urban survival. Check out my other videos. Please subscribe. Please like. Please share. Please drop a donation via PayPal or Western Union. I'm Alex Ansary, reminding you the path to the ultimate truth in place of power, because you're going to need both, still lies within.